You got Wisteria Hall on stage. We were talking about, did you ever think that Barry Windham would be serenaded by a bunch of 50-year-olds?
We'll have to see how this concert turns out.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestler broadcast, Monte and Pharaoh, filmed only here at Indie Music Studios out of Ronkonkoma, New York. And on the couch, the great Barry Windham. Barry, how are you, buddy?
Doing great.
You look great, man. I saw you on a virtual signing yesterday. I was like, damn, he looks like he's in great shape.
Well, I had the heart attack back in November. I was out for 30 minutes at the airport, no heartbeat. Nothing, and there was a doctor there, which I've got to find out who that is, and a guy that did the CPR on me for 30 minutes. And I was out, no heartbeat, no nothing.
Your reputation in this business, I'm not sure how you feel about it, but I want to ask you about it. But, from the Ric Flairs to the Arn Andersons to Mike, myself, all the fans, you really have a very, very impeccable reputation and are really loved and remembered as one of the greatest, clearly top 10 to many, many folks. What do you attribute that to, that you've been so fondly remembered? Was it just doing the right thing over the course of your career? Or, how does that make you feel knowing just how respected Barry Windham really is?
Well, just in the ring, I guess one of the main things that sticks out in my mind that Eddie Graham said to me, he said, you have to work a shoot. Like you have to go into a match like it's a real fight, and then you work a real fight. And I took that and I applied it, and I just thought, and then I thought about selling and all that, and it just, and I had really good teachers down there in Florida too. They had so many guys come through there, Morocco, LeDuc, the Ortons. I mean, all those guys, I worked with every one of them. I worked, 30 minutes and 45 minutes. We went Broadway with all of them. Dusty was doing that for me just so I could learn. And I just think that's it, just the stuff in the ring.
I'm assuming you learned from your father also, right? And both of you huge guys, what real wrestlers are. But your father had the mic skills of a very boisterous guy, but you took it a different route. You took it more like a quiet, soft-spoken guy. How come you took that approach, or that was natural to you?
I think that just goes back, to learning from Eddie and Dusty. Just try to be natural. And there are times you got to show your emotion too. You got to use your face, your body, your hands, everything. And those are just things that I just took in, and it was. I guess what I did is I always tried to, at the end of the day, I would always think back about what I learned that day, whether it was about the business or life, before I went to sleep. And it's just, it's just one of those things you just add it up. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if other people do that. I don't know. It's just the way I did things.
Were you able to, were you ever offered a gimmick that could have derailed your image? Like, you really never were given anything goofy, if you understand what I'm saying.
No, not at all.
You managed to somehow keep that Barry Windham, the wrestler, intact all those years. Were you ever offered something where you were like, I'm not doing that. That's dumb.
Well, I mean, working for Vince in WWE, he wanted, something else. And I fought him tooth and nail. I was wearing all the camo stuff, but I was wearing my boots underneath it, or I had my hair blonde, or, just always. And, I think that's why Vince didn't really go with me, because I was always just kind of defiant.
Okay.
But I was still there and did my job. But,
do you remember any, I'm sorry to press, but I am curious, do you remember any particular one with Vince where he was like, okay, wear this? Was there any particular one?
Well,
where you
I would probably think the Stalker, right?
Yeah, that was a stalker.
That was a
Okay,
stalker.
okay.
And I don't know, maybe Pritchard, that was his idea. I don't know, but anyway, I felt it was kind of a rib,
Right.
and just maybe a little payback for, for leaving before. But
Oh, so you think that's payback when
Interesting.
Why did you leave when you guys were so hot, you and Mike? What made you leave the WWE?
well, I mean, we had been in Florida before that, and we were home every night, and then we're there, and it was 3 months on the road, never home.
Yeah.
96 days, I think was what we went, 92 or 96,
Mm-hmm.
without going home. We might have had a day off on the road, but there was no way to get home. And we were in Baltimore, and Rotundo just flipped out and lost it. We were all down in the red light district, and all the guys were there, and they had their Lincolns, and they ended up playing Ram cars with Lincolns. And I guess Rotundo had rented the car. Anyway, he jumped out of the car and left me there with the car. I went back to the hotel. He was gone.
Just left.
He had flown home that night. He just flipped out.
Just had enough.
So I went to Boston the next night and worked with S.D. Jones, and Chief J. Strongbow was there, and they called Vince, had Vince on the phone. I said, no, I'm going home. Mike's home. And I didn't talk to him again after that. And it just, I just think it kind of hung with him, which it would have too, if it was been me. But he just ran guys ragged there. And
Yeah.
drugs were rampant, and it was
Not for you.
a great time, but it was a bad time too.
Right.
I gotcha.
Right.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
I mean, you guys were crazy over back then. It was like, forget about it. I thought both of you guys could have went on. I mean, he clearly went on as the IRS gimmick for quite a while, but
Yeah.
you
If
clearly
we'd have
could
stuck it out, we'd have been included. But
I mean, what was the money difference between the WWE or Georgia Championship Wrestling of Florida? We have a lot of guys in here and they talk about the big paydays they got down south. But then I talked to some other people that were in the biz and they're like, it really wasn't what you think. All the big paydays occurred up here. Which would be more accurate?
let's see, this was 95. I think Mike and I made about $225,000 that year, which
Wow.
to us was a lot then.
That's a lot to me now.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
good money.
But you had other guys making
Sure.
millions.
Oh, sure.
I think that was probably one of the things that kind of turned me off to the business too, is kind of the pay disparity. But those guys worked their ass off that are in that spot too.
Mm-hmm.
After seeing Windham in it and Cena, they're just gone all the time. They're always busy, or always were.
Yeah, I think you have to make that conscious decision that you're going to marry the business in order to be that successful, right?
Yeah, you gotta go with it 100%.
Barry,
Past that point.
yeah, no, I get it. It's a tough time, but I got to clear this off the table. You lost your nephew recently.
Yeah.
You want to share your thoughts about what's going on with your family, and I mean, for wrestling fans, obvious a sad time, but I mean, my heart went out to you, your family, and the Rotunda family. It's just a shame.
Yeah, it's still pretty hard to talk about, but I mean, he was just such a such a beautiful person.
Yeah. Well, our prayers are with you guys, man.
Yeah, he's going to be sorely missed.
He's one of the most brilliant minds in the business currently, that's for sure. That is for sure.
Yeah, it's really hard on this family. I don't know how they're getting by.
Barry, you worked with some of the great promoters of all time. I am curious, how come you never really did work with the AWA, if I can ask?
I only worked just one shot in there for Vern, but I guess with my time in Florida, that with my start in my career, and then with all the guys that had come in there, most of them, we're New York guys. So I think that was a pretty natural progression, and with my dad being there.
Sure.
I never really talked to Vern or about working there or anything. It was just the one shot that Rotundo and I did when they ran the Dome. We worked against Stan and Steve. I never worked Memphis territory either, or the Northwest.
Any reasons why, or just wasn't in the cards?
I think I was just tied up where I was.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. What was your impression of Vern Gagne, even though it was brief?
Well, I was little when I was around Vern when I met Vern. I met Vern and Andre the same day, so.
Okay.
So I had a definite bigger impression with Andre.
Yeah.
But I remember meeting him.
How did you get along with Andre? Were you guys, you were younger, obviously.
Yeah. Whenever Andre would come in, he would travel with me in Florida. Mike Graham had a big old Cadillac limousine, and I would drive Andre around in that. I guess because he worked with my dad, and, he knew me, so he felt comfortable with me. But traveled with me all the time.
With all these documentaries going on now, and everybody sees behind the curtain and things like that, would it be fair to say the stories on Andre, are they true? Did you see him take business to his own hands when he didn't like someone, or were you not privy to that type of stuff?
Oh yeah, if he didn't like you, you knew it.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't like Savage. Let's see, somebody else.
Baby oil.
Sheiky, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he would lay in the chops on those guys.
Would you guys be back there like, oh, this is
better you than me?
Andre, he just didn't like them. He never really hurt them, but he would sit on them and keep them in a spot where they couldn't do what they were doing. He wasn't brutal to them. He was just almost comical to them, just to where they couldn't move or something, just trapping them in a corner.
Just sit on them.
Well, your dad had some great matches against them. Well, did your dad ever tell you any stories? Did they ever get into it at all, or because your dad could hold his own? I'm for sure against Andre.
His dad was a skyscraper himself.
Exactly.
Yeah. Murdoch told me a story about. Let's see, it was my dad and Murdoch and Andre at Virginia Beach. They were staying at a hotel on the beach, and he said, I think Murdoch started a fight. Anyway, it ended up with my dad and Andre out in the surf, and Murdoch was refereeing, and Andre was holding my dad underneath the water. But my old man told the story different. He said he was beating up Andre.
Okay. That's great.
Don't kill him. Don't kill him.
And now this from Blackjack Mulligan.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
But they tore up the whole hotel room, and they fought out on the deck and then out to the water.
Jeez.
Growing up with your dad around, though, you're a kid, right? I'm sure sometimes you kind of push back, right? You want to be your own. With your father, was it
push back?
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Your father was I'm not saying to my father, I'm just do what he says?
Yes,
or
sir.
what?
I always just did what he said. He was heavy-handed. So
Smart man.
Yeah.
Smart man.
He was heavy.
He was heavy. He was heavy. He was just
kidding.
big, heavy-legged, heavy everything.
God.
You've worked with Vince McMahon, obviously. You've worked with Eric Bischoff a bit. Vince Russo. Can you tell me the difference between these three guys? To you? Your memories?
Oh, let's see. Well, Russo, I don't know. Russo didn't like me, and Bradshaw. I think really Bradshaw was the root of Russo not liking me, because Bradshaw was just a bully to everybody.
Okay.
And
So that is true about Bradshaw. Okay.
When we were in the ring in Japan, he would be beating up the guys. They say, "Please tag in Little Blackjack."
Tag in Little?
Yeah,
You're Little?
You're the Little Blackjack?
Little Blackjack? Good Lord. Okay.
Baba called us back. He had a meeting with us, the three of us, and he said, you're too heavy with my boys. And I'm looking at Bradshaw. Jeez, man. But yeah, Baba called us down and said, "Okay, we'll take it easy."
Right.
Bradshaw the next night.
Yeah.
Didn't give a shit.
Just wailing out. Did you ever want to tell Vince Russo? I'm just curious, or better yet, let me ask you: is Vince Russo what's wrong with the business when it comes to a guy in charge of booking a show? It sounds like, he wasn't a fan of yours, and I could probably understand why. I figured you would be telling him, I'm not doing that stupid idea of yours.
Well, I mean, it seemed like he didn't have a broad scope, a broad enough, to cover
Yeah.
all the wrestlers
Yeah,
and everything
yeah,
that was
it's
there.
just- yeah.
And he had a little narrow picture of what he wanted,
Right,
and I just never fit in it. So
right.
I never had any personal problems with him, but I know what going on in the meetings in New York, so I know what's said about guys. So
Right.
It would only make sense too, because his whole thing was that Jerry Springer type of thing, and that,
Right.
that wasn't
That's
the type
not
of
Barry
guy. That's
Windham.
not Barry Windham at all.
How
right?
about Vince McMahon and Bischoff? What do you got for me on those two?
Bischoff, was always straight up with me. I never had any problems with him. And Vince, just we started out well in '85, but then after I left, it was just, he takes digs, and if you keep going with it, you'll just bury yourself, which I probably did. Just
Vince not very forgiving, in other words.
no.
Gotcha.
To be fair to Vince, do you think that he had a right to be angry at you for walking out on him in '85?
Well, I don't know, because he changed the way that he did business too, because there were so many guys dropping out, dying, overdosing, and just couldn't handle the travel. And there were, we were running 3 crews in those days too, so we were going everywhere. But he learned from it, and I'm sure that if I had participated more, we could have worked something out. But I was there, and then I was just doing what I was doing, and never talked to me or anything, and I was just like, forget this, I'm done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd rather go back home or something.
So the WWE right now looks like Cody Rhodes is eventually going to be the face of this company. I'm sure you've obviously had interactions with Dusty. Can you talk to us about Dusty, the wrestler, the promoter, and the person?
Well, Dusty I probably learned as much from Dusty as I did from Eddie. And one thing that I always did, I watched all the matches, and that's something that Dusty told me. He said, watch all the matches and you'll learn it. And I did, it was just one of those things that I did also. There's some guys that are out there doing it. There's some guys in the back playing cards, all night. So maybe that was a difference. But Dusty just, he was such an influence on me that I really can't, give him enough credit, because he was really outstanding, and as a friend and as a teacher, just an outstanding person. And Cody, he's a student of the business. He was with his dad, and his dad was running that little promotion down there, and it was basically Cody's. He was doing it to teach Cody, how to do production and promos and wrestle and everything, and he did, and he learned, and he caught on. He's a smart guy, Cody is.
Do you look at today's wrestling different than when you were growing up? I mean, do you consider like this being a joke at this point, or do you consider it being the evolution of what guys like yourself, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, created?
Well, when I look at it now, and knowing what I know about the production too, I just don't know if I could do it. I'm sure that I could, because I did before. But now, just looking at it and thinking about it and looking at all that goes into it, I mean, I watched Randy Orton memorize 2 sheets of promos and then go out there and just nail it. And it's like, God, I can't remember one sentence, and read it back like that.
Yeah, it's difficult.
But Cena was like that. Cena, can see something and do it word for word right over. And there's just some things you're just not capable of doing, and there's some guys that are super capable.
Do you think the business is better with the scripted scripts?
Or-
I'm
or-
not saying that right. Or the ad lib
Or
script?
has it lost its organic feel somewhat?
I think it's lost the real, like the sporting feel of it, because
Yeah.
now it's more of an entertainment. People watch it to see, you know, the drama of it instead of the actual wrestling. And then there are some that watch it just for the wrestling. But when I was raised and brought up in it, it was wrestling was first. That's what it was called. So that's what I mainly studied. And I just don't think I could do it now.
What do you think of all the flipping and the flopping? I mean, Rey Mysterio back in the day was the exception. Now everybody seems to do what Rey Mysterio does.
Yeah.
How's that make Barry Windham the traditional wrestler feel when he sees this?
It's what the business has evolved to, and I don't know if it'll go back, to the big guys, giants fighting each other, in bloodbaths and cage matches and stuff. I think with NBC owning it, it'll become even more generic. It'll, family content. It's such a different business.
Is Vince McMahon's stepping down and selling the company good or bad for the future of pro wrestling? After all, Vince has contributed to the business. What do you think?
It's in good hands with Hunter and
Okay.
Stephanie.
Okay.
They're dedicated to it, and he wants to continue it, and he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's really a good guy.
This year they had the documentary on the Graham family. It was clearly the angle was the suicidal tendencies of the entire family. When you look at the Graham family now, after your long relationship with Mike and your training and tutelage of Eddie, did you see that growing up, or is it something afterwards you're like, man, I just didn't see it, and this is what they were about?
After Eddie did it, Mike was one of my best friends. We traveled together all the time, and we went boating and fishing and diving. Mike wasn't the same after his dad shot himself, but when his son did it, Mike was dead set on killing himself. He asked me more than a dozen times if I had my gun in my truck, if I brought a gun with me, if I would loan him a gun, because his wife had taken all the guns out of the house. And I mean, he was a serious alcoholic, and just a few drinks, would make him loopy. And as soon as he would get drunk, he would start tonguing, fuck, why am I here? I'm going to kill myself. And I guess he just did it that night in October in Daytona. I got really good memories of Mike. He was, like I said, he was one of my best friends. But just after his son had killed himself, and his son, I guess Mike had tried to get his son into the business and as a referee or whatever, and he never could, just click, and never could find his spot to stick in. And he had a bad relationship with a girl, and he just shot himself. So I think that, I don't know if it was, now that you mention it, I think that there's history that Eddie's father killed himself too. So I mean, those things you just don't know. They can be there, they can be in someone's mind and their psyche. I don't know, but just
when he's asking you to borrow a gun, and you said a whole bunch of times, at any point did you get like angry at him, like, Mike, snap the F out of it?
oh yeah, I mean, I talked to Mike.
So you
Square.
tried as
He
hard
was-
as you
he
could
was
to
my
get
best
through to him.
friend.
What are you doing?
I would hug him. It was just brutal. It was just a tough time on him. But I'm
Must have felt helpless.
yeah,
Ugh.
yeah.
After the occurrence, do you feel like suicide is selfish in a way? Leaving
oh, yeah,
friends?
Absolutely. I was pissed off at him for 5 years after he did that.
Must have been.
Right.
You know,
Must
it's
have
just
Why?
Why
Yeah.
did you do that?
Yeah.
And there's no answer.
That's the worst part. You don't get an answer.
You got Wisteria Hall on stage. We were talking about, did you ever think that Barry Windham would be serenaded by a bunch of 50-year-olds?
We'll have to see how this concert turns out.
So how did Rap is Crap come about? Like, where did that happen?
Jimmy Hart and Kurt and I were sitting on the bus, and we were just shooting the breeze. And Kurt always wanted to be a cowboy. Yeah. So Jimmy said to him, "Well, you could be the lead singer. We could be a group." And I came up with the name, the West Texas Rednecks, and that clicked. So, I mean, it was just a collaboration on the front seat of a bus just one afternoon.
So when this thing starts to explode, though, and they decide to put you in front of 30,000 people, were you like, I can't do this? Or could you drum? I don't know. Were you a drummer?
I couldn't drum.
They
with
put
the beat.
towels on his drums.
Yeah, I had the towels on the drums.
Unbelievable. Well, this is our homage to the great Barry Windham. Everybody, the Wisteria Hall, Rap is Crap.
Hit it. I like country music. I love country girls. I like Willie Nelson. And don't forget about Pearl. There's only one thing that I hate, 'cause it's a bunch of crap. I hate rap. I like NASCAR racing. Richard Petty's still the king. Some call me a redneck, but you know that's a beautiful thing. There's only one thing that I hate, 'cause it's a bunch of crap. I hate rap. Yeehaw! Play it for it, man. Woo. There's only one thing that I hate, 'cause it's a bunch of crap. I hate rap. One more time. There's only one thing that I hate, 'cause it's a bunch of crap. I hate rap. What is it? Rap is crap. One more time. Rap is crap. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Unbelievable. Did you ever think you'd come on these interview shows and people would be playing music to you?
No.